There are secrets that George W. Bush guards at least as carefully as any entrusted to a president. Secrets he's forbidden to share even with the vice president. Secrets he's held ever since his days at Yale, where in his senior year, like his father and his grandfather, he belonged to Skull and Bones, the elite secret society whose members include some of the most powerful men of the 20th century. All bonesmen, as they're called, are forbidden to reveal what goes on in their inner sanctum, the windowless building on the Yale campus called the Tomb. There are conspiracy theorists who see Skull and Bones behind everything that goes wrong and occasionally even right in the world. Apart from presidents, Bones has included cabinet officers, spies, Supreme Court justices, statesmen, and captains of industry, and often their sons, and lately their daughters. A social and political network like no other. And to a man and woman, they've responded to outsiders with utter silence. Until an enterprising Yale graduate, Alexandra Robbins, managed to penetrate the wall of silence for a book she called Secrets of the Tomb.
I spoke with about 100 members of Skull and Bones, and they were members who were tired of the secrecy, and that's why they were willing to talk to me. But probably twice that number hung up on me, harassed me, or threatened me.
Because bonesmen do not talk.
Right.
Secret or not, Skull and Bones is as essential to Yale as the Whiffenpoofs. The table's down at a pub called Maurice, and the Yale mascot, that ever-slobbering bulldog.
We are poor little lambs who have lost our way.
Skull and Bones, with all its ritual and macabre relics, was founded in 1832 as a New World version of secret student societies that were common in Germany at the time. Since then, it's chosen or tapped only 15 senior students a year, who, when they graduate, become patriarchs, lifetime members of the ultimate old boys club.
Skull and Bones is so tiny, that's what makes this staggering.
15 people
there are
a
only
year.
15 people a year, which means there are about 800 living members at any one time.
We know that a lot of bonesmen have gone on to positions of great power.
That's what Skull and Bones' purpose is, to get as many members as possible into positions of power.
Though there is this mythology about Skull and Bones pulling the strings of government. You're saying the fact is Skull and Bones are pulling the strings of government.
They do have many individuals in influential positions, and that's why this is something that we need to know about.
President Bush has tapped 5 fellow bonesmen to join his administration. Most recently, the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, William Donaldson, Skull and Bones, 1953. Like the president, he's taken the Bones oath of omerta, silence.
I don't believe that people who represent our country, especially the President of the United States, should be allowed to have an allegiance to a secret organization.
Ron Rosenbaum, author and columnist for the New York Observer, has become obsessed with cracking that code of secrecy.
I think there is a deep and legitimate distrust in America for power and privilege that are cloaked in secrecy. It's not supposed to be the way we do things. We're supposed to do things out in the open in America. And so that any society or institution that hints that there's something hidden is, I think, a legitimate subject for investigation.
His is a 30-year obsession dating back to his days as a Yale classmate of George W. Bush. Rosenbaum, a self-described undergraduate nerd, was certainly not a contender for Bones, but he was fascinated by its weirdness.
It's this sepulchral, tomb-like, windowless, granite sandstone bulk that you can't miss. And I lived next to it. I had passed it all the time. And during the initiation rites, you could hear strange cries and whispers coming from the Skull and Bones tomb.
Despite a lifetime of attempts to get inside, the best Rosenbaum could do was hide out on the ledge of a nearby building a few years ago to videotape a nocturnal initiation ceremony in the tomb's courtyard.
A woman holds a knife and pretends to slash the throat of another person lying down before them, and they're screaming and yelling at the neophytes.
Alexandra Robbins says the cast of the initiation ritual is right out of Harry Potter meets Dracula.
There is a devil, a Don Quixote, and a pope who has one foot sheathed in a white monogram slipper resting on a stone skull. The initiates are led into the room one at a time, and once an initiate is inside, the bonesmen shriek at him. Finally, the bonesman is shoved to his knees in front of Don Quixote, sort of as the shrieking crowd falls silent. And Don Quixote lifts his sword and taps the bonesman on his left shoulder and says, "By order of our order, I dub thee Knight of Eulogia."
A lot of mumbo-jumbo.
A lot of mumbo-jumbo, but it means a lot to the people who are in it.
There's also an obsession with death and its trappings, and with skullduggery, literally.
Prescott Bush, George W.'s grandfather, and a band of bonesmen robbed the grave of Geronimo, took the skull and some personal relics of the Apache chief and brought them back to the tomb. There is still a glass case, bonesmen tell me, within the tomb that displays the skull that they all refer to as Geronimo.
And plenty of bonesmen have made a contribution. From William Howard Taft, the 27th president, to Henry Luce, the founder of Time magazine, to W. Averill Harriman, diplomat and confidant of U.S. presidents. One can't help but make certain comparisons with mafia, for example. Secret society, bonding, stakes may be a little higher in one than the other, but everybody knows everything about everybody, which is a form of protection.
I think Skull and Bones has had slightly more success than the mafia, in the sense that, you know, the leaders of the five families are all doing 100 years in jail, and the leaders of the Skull and Bone families are doing 4 and 8 years in the White House.
Bones is not restricted to Republicans. Yet another bonesman has his eye on the Oval Office. Senator John Kerry, Democrat, Skull and Bones, 1966. As we speak, we have the very real possibility of the next presidential election pitting one bonesman, John Kerry, versus another bonesman, President Bush. Skull and Bones, the best-connected white man's club in America, has moved reluctantly into the 21st century.
Skull and Bones narrowly endorsed admitting women. The day before these women were supposed to be initiated, a group of bonesmen, including William F. Buckley, obtained a court order to block the initiation, claiming that letting women into the tomb would lead to date rape. Again, more legal wrangling. Finally, it came down to another vote, and women were admitted and initiated.
Skull and Bones now has women, it has Jews, it has blacks, it has gays, correct?
It has the gays who got the SAT scores, it's got the gays who got the straight A's, it's got the blacks who are the president of the right associations. It's different criteria, more multicultural, but it's still an elite selective institution.
So on balance, you find as bizarre as Skull and Bones seems to be from a certain perspective, it is something of value, you would say?
You take these young strivers, you put them in this weird castle. They spill their guts with each other, fine, but they learn something beyond themselves. They learn a commitment to each other, they learn a commitment to the community, and maybe they inherit some of those old ideals of public service that are missing in a lot of other parts of the country.
Does that relationship forged with all this mumbo-jumbo and coffins and skulls and bones and all of that stuff, does that become, in some cases anyway, stronger than family, faith?
Absolutely. You know, they say the motto at Yale is for God, for country, and for Yale. At Bones, I would think it's for bones.